That's the whole Detours conversation, really, is that I started meeting parents who said that they were introducing their kids to Star Wars via Robot Chicken, which I think is culturally misinformative.
I agree.
Because you meet something in a comedic way with an ironic investigation behind all the sincerity, and it sort of denies you the opportunity to intake the sincerity. So when I was introduced to Darth Vader, he's a villain, and only through years of self-assessment and sort of creating my own ironic lens, could I appreciate the idea of him as a beleaguered middle manager.
Yeah.
But that's an evolution. If you meet this character that way, then when you see him being scary, you're like, oh, that guy's not funny at all. It's like watching Ricky Gervais play a bad guy all of a sudden. And so when we were talking about Detours, do you know about that?
No.
You know that show? We spent 4 years making 39 animated episodes of a cartoon for Star Wars. You sort of know about this, right?
I do know. As soon as you say, yes, now I know exactly.
Well, so there's 39 finished episodes and a total of 62 scripts.
Yeah.
And it was this project that George wanted to make before selling the company, before hiring Kathy Kennedy, before deciding to make 7, 8, and 9. Mm-hmm. And it was just him wanting to kind of expand on this comedic Star Wars universe, and also recognizing that television is the frontier of entertainment as far as like communicable content, like straight to the viewer, and he wanted to own something, and so he manufactured this show. And the more that we talked about it, or at least the conversations I got to have with Kathy Kennedy, which was like a pinch myself kind of moment, because she's one of my heroes, and we talked about, once they decided to do 7, 8, and 9, she really wanted to put Detours on hold, and not because, well, at least by my understanding, not because she doesn't believe in the content, but because it's not a question of that content, it's a question of Star Wars as a brand over the next 30 years. And that was the axiom she used for me. She said, well, it's not really the next 3 years. Because 4 years ago, when we were talking about putting it on a network, she said, knowing that 7, 8, and 9 are going to come out, or especially episode 7, which is a reintroduction of Star Wars for new generations. The first time George won't be attached to it. It's J.J. Abrams, it's all these new characters, it's the next thing. She said, we have to really be conscious about how this gets introduced to kids and in what way. And the fact that Detours was something that George invented, it's the last television that George had that heavy a creative hand in. And so it's bound to be met with some kind of fanfare just because it's his own personal thing. And you don't want that to compete. What she said was, if kids spent the next 3 years watching Detours on XD, and it's these comedic interpretations of these iconic characters that they're about to be reintroduced to in episode 7. When episode 7 opens, Vader, who's on par with like Mussolini or Hitler or Stalin, has been destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if kids spend 3 years in advance of seeing episode 7 being introduced to Vader as this kind of bumbling, middle manager, I don't know, we all felt like that was kind of negligible. Like because I think our show is great, and I think it's very funny, but I also appreciate how significantly important Star Wars is culturally and what this movie will mean at this moment.